member of the Douglas County Master Gardener Board. She also co-chaired the Douglas County Master Gardener Garden Tour in 2021. And her father was a master gardener in Illinois. Therese has gardened in Chicago, Minneapolis, Central Illinois, and Kansas. Susie, let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. Susie is also Master Gardener class of 2019, and she is a retired secondary librarian media specialist who enjoys connecting with people with necessary resources and acquiring information about gardening. She and Hazlitt co-chair the resource booth in the 2022 garden show. And here's Hazlitt. Okay. Make sure the camera's on you, so stay right here. No. Or should I hook it right here? Just hold it. No, can you advance the screen? Maybe I'll just, oops, it followed me. Hang on. Oh, okay. It's on me.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, hello everyone. I am not a very gifted extemporaneous speaker, so I'm just going to try to read to you from my script in a way that is not very boring. So you're definitely going to learn about a lot of resources today. But first, Susie and Therese have indulged me and let me start with a sort of librarian nerd out session, where I'm going to frame our discussion with some ideas about information seeking behavior, or how people decide that they have questions and then go about finding answers to those questions. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the local libraries that we have here in town and the resources. And then Therese is going to talk about digital resources and websites. She has a whole lot to talk about, so that'll be a big chunk. And then Susie will talk about the EMG library that is here in the extension office. And then Susie's going to talk about other resources that she has been researching over the course of months. And she has done so much really interesting work into kind of expanding the idea of what resources are. So that's going to be exciting. And here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to leave this session equipped with resources, websites, people, and places to approach your horticultural questions. And and I also wanted to say you're gonna, oh yeah. So yeah, don't copy everything down. That's a great question. I've actually made a Google Drive that you can all have the link to that has all the documents that we're going to talk about today with resources listed. Yes. No question. Okay. Okay, great. Yes. Okay. So yeah, just to start it out, there are some ideas that I want to plant in your mind for thinking about resources. The first is that there are two modes of information seeking. There's browsing and there is searching. And you probably, you all probably know this, but for me, it's kind of like revolutionary to think about when you browse, you're just learning generally. You're kind of saying, I want to know about native plants in Kansas. Let me just read generally. And a book is often the best resource for that kind of information seeking. But when you're searching, you have a specific question and you're looking for a specific answer. And in that case, the sort of resource that you're looking for is different. You might go to an expert because you can have a more sort of nuanced back and forth conversation with them, or you might kind of triangulate your search in a way it's just different than when you're browsing. So that's the first thing that I want us to keep in mind. The second is that learning and information seeking is a social behavior. So on the one hand, this is really beautiful, and it means that all the information that you're going to find and interact with is created by people, and we're all sort of engaged in this collective endeavor to grow and learn. But on the other hand, that means that someone made it. So you have to think about who made this piece of information, why did they make it, and then how did it make its way to me? Because that's where you can get into kind of territory that's like, what's the motivation behind this thing being made? And yeah, that's sort of misinformation. So that's more of a resource beyond what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're talking about trusted resources. So you don't have to worry about it with the resources we're talking about here. But, in your sort of information seeking beyond, you want to think about those questions. And then the third thing is that, as we all know, horticultural information, ecological information is so complex, and we're still learning so much about how nature works, about all of the relationships that make up nature. And so that means that it's really hard to find the answer, as we all know, I'm sure, right? You're not going to find like, yeah, here's the perfect answer that will work in every place. One thing people like to say about ecological knowledge is that it is partial and it is situated. So partial meaning we don't know everything, right? There's no sort of overarching theory of everything. And then situated in that it only works in certain places. So you have to, be really careful with ecological information and kind of triangulate your sources as much as possible. So for me, I really like to think of it as a little bit of a treasure hunt, where if I have a specific question, I'll go to one person and they'll tell me some stuff, and then I'll go to another place and I'll learn some stuff there. And then, I'll repeat that process over and over until I have, sort of like a good understanding of what I'm trying to do. This is in theory. This is really hard to do in practice, I think, but this is, my idea. Okay, so next, again, Teresa and Susie have indulged me and let me start with this little bit. So between everyone in this room and everyone on Zoom, we have so many decades, so much time of information seeking behavior. And so I really want to know if just maybe 2 or 3 brave souls would say, in your own life, your own gardening life, when you have a specific question, what do you do? What resources do you go to first? And I'll repeat it for the people on Zoom. And I can go first if no one wants to say. Yeah, okay, go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, so before I talk about
Uh-huh.
I'll also go to local plant selling stores.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So Joanne said that first she would Google, before she knew about master gardeners, first she would Google, and then she would go to local plant selling stores to find information. And now she would go to the KSU website. Okay, great. Yeah.
So I'm usually looking at a plant, a native plant that I'm not familiar with. If I have a name or close to a name,
Mhm.
I usually go to Missouri Botanical Garden Plant ID website,
Okay.
and they have all sorts of things.
Great. Okay, so this is about when you have a native plant and you know the name, you go to the Missouri Botanical Information Plant ID website, and you can look up that plant by name and find information. Anyone, Nancy says that too. Okay, and anyone else want to?
If you can't find it there, go to the Ladybird Johnson.
Ooh, okay,
Plant wildflower.
cool.
And every once in a while, the Kansas Wildflower
Like
website.
website. Okay, so if you can't find it on the Missouri Botanical website, then you go to Ladybird.
Ladybird Johnson.
Ladybird Johnson flower database, and then there's also a Kansas wildflower website. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. It's so fun because everyone has their own sort of strategies and their own background and their own experiences in finding information, and it's so fertile, just like a garden. Okay, great. And so many of the resources that you identified are things we're going to talk about today, but we hope that you'll find others to put in your pocket. Okay. So I'm going to start off talking about a few of the libraries in town, which I hope everyone is already really familiar with, but I think you'll learn something even so. And I'm not going to talk about Haskell's Tomani Library because I'm not very familiar with it, but I think it is another good source to sort of triangulate your search, like I was talking about, especially if you're looking into, like Indigenous practices or traditional ecological knowledges. So first off is Lawrence Public Library. Does everyone have a library card? Good. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So of course, there's a great reference collection of gardening books. I'm sure you all know that they're like flying off the shelves right now because everyone is planting their garden. They're friendly librarians. The reference librarians at LPL are at the Ask Desk, which is right next to the gardening collection. Does everyone already know this? I hope so. You can go ask them questions. They are trained to find answers. And they know all sorts of things. And because it's so complex, right, there's so many resources, they often know about a thing that you're like, oh, I've never actually heard about that, and that's a good source. So it's useful to talk to them as much as you can. And then, of course, the really exciting thing for us gardeners at LPL is the seed library. How many people have gotten seeds from the seed library before? Okay. So it runs between this year, between February 18th, this Saturday, very exciting, and the end of April, or until the seeds run out. And during that season, you can get 5 free seed packets from the seed library. And of course, it's not like a seed catalog, like there's not a huge abundance of variety. But we have, I used to work there, but they have native plants, annual flowers, vegetables, and fruits. And it's a great free resource. And it's in an old card catalog right next to the Ask Desk. If you've never gotten seeds from there, you should go and just get some free ones. And, you know, there will be no harm. And then LPO does have programs related to horticulture. So let me remember the examples. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. So the first program I want to talk about that you all might be interested in is Nature Book Club at LPL, which some of you might be a member of. But Nature Book Club, it meets once every season, and it's just a collection of people who talk about the books they've read that are related to gardening and nature, and not necessarily, no, people don't read the same book and then come talk about it. So that's another really interesting place where you can go learn about other, you know, books that you might be interested in. There are seed cleaning programs in the winter for the seed library. Kind of fun. And then because I am the chair of the public library committee for EMGs, I am compelled to tell you that we are going to have a lot of very exciting LPL EMG collaborations this year. And if you want to get involved, you can send me an email, and my email is in the roster, I believe. The first thing we're going to be doing is this initiative I'm very excited about called Ask a Question, Get a Pot of Dirt, where we'll be tabling at the seed library on the weekends. And if someone asks us a question about seeds, then they get a pot of dirt. And thank you, Joanne, for donating a lot of pots. And we have a monarch event in April, and we have we're hoping to have a solstice event in June. So everyone should join. Okay, and the KU libraries, probably the one that people are less familiar with, but there's very exciting information here. Okay, the first thing, there are also gardening books at KU. I mean, yeah. And there are also friendly librarians at KU. But, okay, as members of the public, everyone in this room has access to basically all of the research that KU faculty and staff and students have access to. If you go on campus and you go to the libraries, there are public access computers there. And when you're on campus, you can access basically everything, is what my boss told me to say, almost everything. And that's awesome. That means that you can access all the latest research related to, you know, botany and all the stuff, horticulture, blah, blah, blah. It's awesome. It's really cool. And then, of course, there are a lot of really interesting conversations happening on campus, and they bring a lot of interesting people to Lawrence who are kind of informing the conversation around horticulture and nature in, you know, interesting ways, kind of ways that go beyond how we traditionally think about these topics. So the one I want to plug is tomorrow. The poet Ross Gay is coming to Liberty Hall, and the tickets are free. And Ross Gay is a poet who talks mostly about race and joy, but through an ecological lens a lot of the time. So he is like a co-founder of a community orchard in Bloomington, Indiana, where he teaches. And so, you know, so he has this sort of lens that is thinking about, thinking about ecological worlds in a way that is also related to social systems, race, and yeah. So everyone should go. That's tomorrow at Liberty Hall. Oh, yes. And if you are intimidated by going up to campus and parking, you should all know that the buses are free this year. The Lawrence buses are. And there's the number 10 bus goes right from the public library all the way up the hill, and you can get off right by Watson Library or by the other libraries. It goes twice an hour, and then you can come right on down back to the public library. So you don't have to worry about parking. And everyone should take the buses this year. Yeah, everyone take the buses. Okay, so that's the end of my section, and I'm going to run to class now. Thank you to everyone on Zoom, and here's the truth.
Okay. I'm Teresa O'Neill. As said, I joined in 2019. And one thing, and you can disagree with me, I find is most of the gardeners are introverts. We kind of like being alone in our dirt, and we like to read, but here we are all social. It's good. But libraries and websites are great for introverts, right? So these are not a full list of digital resources. I had to pare it way down. So great on some of the other suggestions I didn't know about. See if I can do it this way. Is this the clicker? See if I can figure this out. No? Okay, we get it. I think. All right. And all the links are going to be shared. So I have a document of everything that I have. It's gonna look repetitive in the beginning, but bear with me and I'll tell you why. This is our main page we go to. If you don't know it, definitely go to the K-State. I think someone new just said that. And it's interesting to me, we have two people here, we all know. What I find is lawn and garden is a place for me that I go. Because when I first looked at this and I was new, I was like, I don't even know where to begin to start. There's so much information. So here you go with all the links. They're, like I said, these are going to look repetitive, but I find digital resources are going down a rabbit hole. You can get so lost, and that's why I put more than one link in there. So you'll see all these different things. I'm not going to go through them. But here's another one. These are the agent articles. You should, if you're not getting the Monday email from Ward Upham, I think I'm saying that right. It's an awesome resource. You can read it. That's what I do, but you can also link to the web-based part of it. It's seasonal. It's up to date. I think right now it's about getting ready for planting. But in the summer, like when the June bugs come out every year, that particular time of the year, it talks about June bugs. So you don't even have to remember it. You can just, I mean, everybody does their own thing, right? But you can like go to Ward's letter or this website, and there is a search bar. Sometimes the search bar is a little goofy. And I'm going to talk about how to save pages. If you don't know how to use bookmarks, that's okay. There's another way to do it, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So our website, which Kevin has told me is really easy, and for the life of me, I cannot remember it. I don't know. I'm a little dyslexic, so I get things backwards, but it's on the list. DG is Douglas, EMG, Kansas. And I believe Thelma's still doing this, right? I think, yeah. Beautiful website. She really does a great job of keeping it up to date. And on it's called a ribbon. Does this have a little thingy on it? I don't think so. On the ribbon, you can't quite read that, but there's tons of pull down menus. Like the last one says resources, and on there you can find, says for EMGs, you can find the expensive one. That seems to be really important to me. Not that I spend that much money, but I can never, ever find it. And I know a lot of us, we copy and send it to each other because nobody seems to be able to find it. So that's kind of important to me. The past presentations can be fun. You can find out about gardeners. I said Thelma does a great job of keeping this up to date. You want to know all the garden education that is planned for the next year. And that's basically our meetings and our advanced, it's there. We talked about the water gardening workshop. It's there. And potatoes, because it's almost St. Patrick's Day. So it's just kind of fun. I don't know a lot about potatoes, but I'm Irish. So there you go. I always tell people I have a allergy to potatoes, and it's kind of a fun thing to say when you go to a restaurant because they look at you funny, because I ate them every single day of my life as a child. Okay, any which way but up, and even up, I think. This is also great, and if you see, this is the YouTube. It is YouTube, but again, if you save the link, you can go back and find all the presentations. Like you will see Amber, who did the permaculture. So this is very up to date. If you can't get in your education hours, I love these videos. Rainy days. Sometimes when I travel a lot. I get bored. Sounds weird, but when I'm in one place anyway, but you know, and here's the other thing, you can watch 15 minutes, stop, come back to it later, do it another day. You know, then you just put it in as your hour of advanced education. So I use this a lot, and there's always, to me, there's something interesting. Like I haven't read or watched the one about preserving seeds. Like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I think you guys will like this. If you're not, but it's hard to find. So the link is really important, and it's not, at least I haven't found it on our website. I think I got to talk to Thelma. It's a little off somehow. It's not linking, but it will be there. This is to me the easiest way to find it. So I'm giving you the easiest way that I find it, but I want to tell you the trick. Don't worry. And I was at the Prairie Bird, so you'll see a lot of that. And I actually got to light the fires. It was kind of scary. It was, there was some guy, I'm sorry, from KU next to me, and thank God he was there. Like the weirdest part, and I'm just going off topic, but when you're done burning, and the bluegrass, by the way, gave off the most heat. That was amazing. It was like crazy. It's like step back, you put the little oil and diesel thing up, and you put your hand to put it out, but you have a leather glove. And they provided goggles, gloves if you didn't have the right equipment. And I got to wear a $200 shirt that was 100% fireproof. So that was awesome. I mean, these are kind of fun things, right? So again, recording hours. I hear a lot about that. The website, and you scroll down. I do it a lot on my phone. I keep it on my phone. The difference, though, I will tell you, because I get a little nerdy too. Like I want to see where I'm at on hours every year, so I know I'm okay. You can't do it on your phone. At least I haven't been able to, because of the Apple phone and Safari. Go to your computer, and then you can view your hours, and you get this little graph. Like you can see how many you did last year. You can see where you're at this year. I'm a little nerdy that way because I want to make sure. I think I'm going for the emeritus status in 5 years. I've got 2 years of 100 hours plus, so I need 3 more years. Just so you know. And I'm still going to be volunteering because I love this. I love gardening. You guys are all great. I love the people. So then I talked about the newsletter. What I found interesting, if you scroll down where it says archives, I went all the way back to 2014. I'm sure it goes back further. Again, Ward Upham sends this out every Monday, but I clean up my email a lot because I have too much, and Google keeps telling me I have too much and they want me to pay more money, and I'm not going to do it. So I delete emails, and then I don't know where to find that article. So I have to go out here. The only thing I haven't found is the search bar. I thought, but if you kind of remember, like I said, when do Japanese beetle come out? Was that about May, right? Japanese beetles come on our bushes and our trees and whatever. You just scroll down to May, you'll find it. I mean, it's there every year. So I just love reading his newsletter. And this one, again, showing more specifics on that. Like he talked about turf grass a lot, and that was almost one of my negative comments, because I don't care about turf grass personally, but the Extension Master Gardeners is for everybody. It's not just for me. A lot of people, including people that are not master gardeners, are working on turf grass. And there's a conference every year that Ward will tell you about if you want to go. So not my forte, but somebody else's. They don't make this for me. And then this gets into alternative things. There's 2 apps that I know about that you can use on your phone. One's I think called Plant ID. Some of you use it. It's like $30. Okay, again, I'll go back to me being cheap. I found this one. It's called Seek. You can get it on Google Play for an Android. You can get it on Apple. It is very friendly. It's partly by the National Geographic, so it's very scientifically based. What I do with it, and it has a camera function. So if you go to, you can see. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, but it goes by your location. So if you use, it says San Francisco, but if you go by Lawrence, the very first page, well, if you have it on plants, which I usually do, you can do plants, you can do fungi, you can do insects, you can do, you name it. I mean, anything you can think of. Insects I found are really, really hard because you got to get them to stop. To happen. Stop. Mammals, for instance, like if you want to see squirrel, I've done fungi out in the forest by the river. There's tons of them out there. I love fungi. So you get that. But what's interesting, you see those 3 pictures under San Francisco. Those are the most popular plants in that region. I'm not going to tell you you're always going to find them, but they do compile all the searches and say this is the one we found the most. It is actually meant for 13-year-olds and up. They have challenges on there, like go find the most fungi, go find the most diverse, go find the most insects. I've done one and I got a badge, it's kind of cute. Do you have a question, Dan? Yes, it is iNaturalist. Yes. And there's several of us that have this. So if you have a problem downloading it, The other thing you can do, and I tried this at the farmer's market, some lady came up. She was whatever at a tulip festival in Arkansas. And she's like, oh, I saw this beautiful tulip. What is it? And it's a tulip. I can tell you. And it was like, but I did tell her about this app. I walked her through it. Because if you have a past picture and it's a good picture, it has to be a good picture. You can look it up. Now, I will tell you, if it's really specific and it's a hybrid, you're probably not going to find it. I find this app doesn't work very well in the winter on trees because there's no leaves, there's no flowers. So the first thing it always says, and I kind of swear at it when it says this, is dicot. I'm like, okay, duh. So I kind of swear at it, but it does keep all your observations. So you can go back and it'll go all the way down. And I'm not a biologist or botanist, but it goes all the way down to species. And sometimes it'll tell you, you are close. You don't have the species, but you're close. And this goes to, and I'll talk to you about the Missouri Botanical Garden, because when you get all the way down, it'll tell you a little bit about the tree or the flower or whatever, it'll tell you. But you need another source if you really want to get into the nitty gritty. So I use this a lot, but you can see the little badges. Like I said, they did design it. They want it to be family friendly. I did read quite a bit about it. So it's a really nice source. Okay. Then what I do, if I can get it to go all the way down, because it will give you the common name, but it definitely gives you the scientific name. I put in the finding bar, whatever that is. And then you get, and the reason we use the Missouri Botanical is it's pretty much the same zone. There are other ones out there, like Chicago has one, Minnesota has one, but this is our zone. So this is going to tell you, great to plant. It spreads, be aware. Water it, shade. This will tell you all that stuff. So if you really want to nerd down into just, if you're into just collecting the badges and keeping your flowers and whatever, great. That's kind of me. But if you really want to know the nitty gritty, or your neighbor wants to know, that's the other thing, learning some of these resources. Most of my neighbors know I'm a master gardener. Sometimes I wear my shirt when I walk and I get every question you can think of. I think they do think I know everything, but I don't. So I look it up. I try to tell them to use the hotline, right? But they don't tend to do that. They rely on me. So we talked about native plants. I use this one a lot. This is Deep Roots, and this is their plant finder. They also have monthly seminars, which you can sign up for, and they're really cool. There's 2 young ladies that do it. They're starting to do field trips. They went to somewhere in Missouri, a state forest, and did short pine or something. Yeah, so other people use it, short needle pine. It was very interesting. I didn't grow up in Missouri or Kansas, so I love learning about new plants. And then there's also the Kansas Forest Service, which trees. So you can look up different trees, how to take care of trees. And we get a lot of this information, and that is one of the keys. There's lots of ways to look things up, but
Really quick, see how this little bar is up here, right in your address.
oh,
We're trying to do, so let's just get rid of that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We just want people to be able to see. what
Yeah,
we're
and
trying to show.
I'm going to talk about it again, and you don't have to do it right now, but I always say, take a picture with your phone, which I see some people doing. And I'll talk about when you're on your computer, the old fashioned control P, which is print. I do use that at home. Here's some of the things. These are all the ones I showed you. They will be, and remember, all the presentations are recorded. You go to the YouTube channel, and I did give a list of this to Nikki and Susie. So hopefully you can find that in the, I can put it out in the drive. Google. Okay. Google Drive, I just mentioned that, and it is kind of confusing. I think Kevin gives a seminar every year on it, and I continue to learn myself. But one of the things I find is if I don't open it, this is just me, I can't find it again. But there's a trick to that. Usually once you open it, you're going to go to My Drive, go to Shared with Me. That's where all the stuff is from the Master Gardeners. If you go down on the left, it'll say Shared with Me. Because if you look in your drive, if you didn't save it in your drive, and sometimes you can't, they don't allow you to save it, you're never going to find it again. And then you're like, what I've done is dig through Nikki's emails and try to find it. So that is very helpful. For me, that works. Like I said, a lot of these things is I found through trial and error. So,
Could you go back? This?
sure, no worries. Yeah,
Remember, all of this will be available on a Google Doc after this. I'll send it out on Friday. So every slide.
yeah, so you'll have it. It'll be, but that's okay. I mean, I think we do that as a group. And K-State does it too. It's in multiple places, usually. These are just some of my little tricks that may not be somewhere. Google Like a Pro, we got, those of us that are working the horticultural hotline, we got a great sheet from Nikki or Sharon about using like a negative sign. Like if you want to look up something about jaguar location, well, you're probably going to get about a car. You're not going to get the animal. So if you put a negative in front of it, now you're going to get jaguar. You're going to get jaguar animal. So it's not, you won't get the car. Because even if you put animal in, you may still get the car, because it's all about people pay for ads and the place, you know how that is. You get stuff on the top that you don't even want. So another thing that you can do, if you put it in exact quotes, if you say jaguar animal, then they're going to get the animal. You won't get the car. So these are kind of little, if you're working the hotline, these are all available, or maybe you can put that sheet in there too, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff, so I'm learning. And if you want an or, this is showing you, you want potato beetle or garden pest. There's another or, you could try that. And there's a lot of more hints again on that sheet. And if you're not signed up for the hotline, the other hint I'll have for you, and you're kind of intimidated by all these questions, we don't get a lot of questions. B, that go with somebody, and there's lots of people that are experienced. So you do not have, please don't work it by yourself the first time, because it's kind of lots of little things go on. And if you're working with somebody, then it's better, right? You learn from them. So more tips, always, because we're a resource-based education and outreach. Remember this, .edu and .org. I think Diane said that in the back. I used to go to whatever, Earl May. I used to go to Bob's Gardening Supply, whatever. And there's some great resources in town, and Susie's going to talk. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to quote it to the public, you need to use edu and org. And there's a way to search for that too. Like if you, and I can talk about that. It's really more nerdy stuff. And I talked about Control P. That's an old fashioned Word doc thing that I still use. Control C, which is copy, and Control V, which is paste, because that's easier for me. Just if you want those little hints, I can tell you personally. But when I'm searching, and I'm sure it's happened to all of us, is you go down the rabbit hole. You've started with potatoes, and now you're into potato beetles. But you really, what you were looking for is you wanted to know what time of the year you should plant potatoes. Now you've lost that page. So stop when you're at the page you want. Hit Control P on your computer. Yeah, it's happened to all of us. Print it off. I mean, I hate using more paper, but I hate wasting time. So you have to pick your poison, right? So I use Control P a lot. And that's what I've got. I'm sure other people, it was interesting. Somebody said the Lady Bird Johnson had not looked at that. That's cool. So there's lots of resources. I think that Hazlitt said that in the beginning. USDA. Okay. I have not looked at that one.
And .gov.
And .gov, yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, the app, I'll picture this.
Yeah.
And it looks like when you open that app, it looks like you have to pay $30.
Yes.
to join, but at the top right, it says cancel, and it's not lit up at all.
Okay.
Right, and you can, I have a whole library and I never.
Excellent. So the suggestion was plant ID, or picture this.
Picture this.
Picture this is another plant app, and it's free. It won't be highlighted. You have to look for cancel in the top right. That's from Therese Lawrence. And then you never have to pay, and she's been able to keep all her data. See, I wasn't smart enough to figure that out. Diane, Joanne. Plant Snap is another one.
Most of them have a free option. They have a
Okay.
pay option. They better. Most of them have a free.
Okay. Yeah, we might want to write some of those down, because I didn't have them. I just talked because I haven't used them. I talked about the one I used, and that's so Susie Nightingale is our next speaker, and she has an incredible amount of resources, which is awesome.
You did awesome. All right, the most enjoyable part of this presentation has been working with Therese and with Hazlitt. I feel privileged to have shared time with them, and we have gotten to know each other over the past few months, and that has been very enjoyable. So my goal here is to talk about some of the other resources that we have. Our EMG library, as Cindy said originally, was old, and many of the resources were dated. And thanks to the generosity of the 2022 board and Kevin Nelson for sharing part of his allotment, we were able to purchase, as you can see, many new materials that are update and current. So I encourage you to check out the materials. And I don't know why this is whistling. Okay. Okay. Help. Okay. Well, I don't want to whistle at you the whole time. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Amen. Okay. Anyway, we have lots of new resources and we encourage you to check them out today. They are cataloged and processed. You just pull out the card from the back, put your name and the date, and then I will collect them and we will be on our way. I know that Nancy Smelser was asking for more books on native plants. We really built up our collection on that. We had no books on monarch butterflies. And I'm saying, that's weird. So we went ahead and purchased many books about monarch butterflies. We also have enhanced our children's literature collection, books for children. So if you have grandchildren that you would like to help educate about various aspects, we have a wide variety of that. Now, one of the things I've thought about when I thought about libraries is that what an excellent example of sustainability. Because if you think about it, we're not all going out now and buying these books ourselves. We are reducing paper. We are sharing resources. We are reusing resources. And that was a theme that I thought as I went through my presentation. We are doing a good thing by having this EG library. This is called a special collection. It is for our garden group to be used and to be checked out. And for the public, if they would like to use it, they may use it on site. So I think that this is a really good example of sustainability. All right, one of the things is that we now have 356 titles. We started with a pile of books. And when I talked to Sharon recently, she said, you know, I remember when we started this and I saw that pile of books and I said, how is Susie going to turn that into a library? And I thought the same thing myself. And so it's been a lot of work. We've had a lot of help and support from many different people. And at the end, we will acknowledge those people who have been there for us. All right, now we are located next to the hotline. The library is available from 8 to 5 when the extension center is open, and you are free to go in there at any time. Now, I am retired now. I finally got smart and stopped working for pay. Now I work for free. So my schedule is flexible. So if at any time you would like for me to come in and go over materials with you, I'd be more than happy to do so. And I know Mary Wolfington and I had a session the other day where she had some questions about various resources. And so I came in and we met together, and I'm more than happy to do that. Because when you look at the collection, it can be somewhat overwhelming because we are not computerized. And I've been through retrospective conversion of a library collection once before in my life, and I never want to do it again. Never. So deal with it. So what we are going to do instead is that I decided when we had the advanced competency, Teresa and I worked together on that, to make finding guides. So now we have finding guides, the online catalog of that's how you can access all this. We do have a database, and Hazlitt has been, she's our technology whiz of the library team. She helps Teresa and me find our way through computers, and she just does it so naturally and efficiently, and we're bumbling around. So, you know, she's just been great. So we do have a database of all the materials in our collection with the date, the call number, the author, the title, and the subject. So that is accessible online. We also, we can check books out. Members of the public can use books on site. Okay, so what we did to help it make it easier for people to use our library collection is I made what are called finding guides. And the finding guides are alphabetical here on this screen. And so, for instance, if you want to find books on monarch butterflies, you go to the finding guide, and right there it has all the titles with the call number and the title. And then you can see that we have a variety of resources here. And these finding guides, I have an example here. This is what they look like. Okay, so you have here all the finding guides alphabetically listed, and these are placed next to the collection. So when you go use the resources, like for instance, Carrie McMillan was looking for water gardens. And he said, well, how do I find the books on water gardens? And I said, here you go. Here's a finding guide. Speaking of water gardens, Deb and Susan, the former owners of the Water's Edge, donated their entire library to us, which is amazing. So we have a lot of really good resources on water gardens, and the workshop is coming up next month. So you might want to check some of those resources out ahead of time or even afterwards. So we have many, many resources available for you. So the next thing, okay, these are new acquisitions. And as I said, I'm really excited about this. I know I'm kind of a librarian, and you know, I like print, I like digital too, but I just get excited when I see a new book. And so this has been a real joy for me to go through all these wonderful resources, and I can kind of go down a rabbit hole too, because I start looking at a book and I'm supposed to be cataloging it and processing it, and I'm just spending time looking at it, but they're all available. This is amazing. If you think about it, that's a lot of new resources that are current that we have been able to add to the collection. And these are just a few of them. Gardening with Prairie Plants, then Braiding Sweetgrass. If you haven't read that book, that is a fascinating book. It's about indigenous culture. And when I read it, the thing that I mainly got out of it was that they thank nature before they eat the vegetable, before they look at the plant. They express gratitude. And I'd never thought of that concept before. And so I think that that is an intellectual book that will help you think a different way. Planning in a post-wild world, we're talking about permaculture. This one is extremely fascinating as far as that. Let It Rot. Okay, so we have lots of different kinds of books. We have the New Guide to Kansas Mushrooms. Now, one of the things that I did, I couldn't believe I was doing it. I went to the public library. They were having Sherry Kay talk about mushrooms to the mushroom people. I don't know anything about mushrooms. I now know that you can forage and you can, I'm still whistling away. I'm so sorry.
Trying to just down.
Okay. Okay. But anyway, I found out that you can forage for mushrooms and that there are certain times of day that you do it. And so this is the brand new guide that they now have. And the guide that we have in our collection, the former guide, is now worth $400. It's so rare. So if you check that one out, be really careful. Okay, now one of the things that I wanted to do when I was getting ready for this presentation is to expand out. I don't think that we just have to limit ourselves to digital resources or to print resources. We have a wonderful group of people here as far as local experts. Now notice I put it in quotation marks because a lot of people that I approached said, oh, I don't know anything about monarch butterflies. That's what Susan Rendell said. And I'm going, that doesn't make any sense to me. You're working at the Monarch Way Station, number one. You're in charge of it. Of course, you know. Well, I can be a resource to help other people find information about monarchs. And I said, whatever. So we had people sign up during the activity fair. And also I went around and I was corralling people, I must admit. And then I also called people on the phone. So Nikki wanted to make sure that I would have checked with everybody first before I put them down as a resource. Yes, I did. I asked for permission. I had to bend a lot of elbows and twist a lot of hands, but we got it done. Now, we do have some lists up here. And I know that we're trying to limit paper usage, but I thought this list might be handy to have because I know I'm going to put it right by my computer. I have a Master Gardener stand and I have all my Master Gardener things there. And I'm going to make sure that I have this local expert list handy. Just to give you an example, I had a friend of mine say, well, I want to know about pruning forsythia. Okay, I love forsythia. They're pretty and they're yellow and they come out in the spring. And that's about all I know about forsythia. So at the Garden Art Committee last week, I put the question out there and I had 10 people tell me all about, oh yes, well, you do the dark wood. Well, you only do a third at a time. Well, if you do it too soon, well, you got to wait until after it blooms. And I'm like, okay, this is great. That's what I mean by a local expert. So if you want to take a copy of the list, it's right there. Go ahead and you have that handy. That's a point of contact for you. Now, the first point of contact for container gardening, Ann Beatles, and then hostas, Ruth Gibbs, and then Bill and I know about fairy gardens. And the irony of fairy gardens is that here, Bill and I love them. There are no books about fairy gardens. Obviously, I need to do something about that. So another thing we did is that Sharon Ashworth sent out her survey about demographics in December, and she allowed us to piggyback onto her survey. So we went and asked people, what are your favorite regional garden centers? And we found a lot of responses. And so we have a list up here for you, and all of this will be online. But if you do choose to take it, it was fascinating to me. For instance, pines is really good for begonias. I didn't know that. So that you can find out, this particular place is good for hostas. And so I think that that's a really helpful resource to know if you're looking for a particular kind of plant that you could go to this particular garden center. So don't worry about, thinking that you have to know it all. And I know we do want to be research-based, but I go to Ann Poyser at Clinton Parkway. That lady is a walking encyclopedia. And anything I need to know, she's got a great sense of humor. She's just really fun. And I go to her and she never makes me feel stupid when I ask a question, and she helps me and she's wonderful. So that's what I mean by a local expert and also a regional garden center. Now, this part of it, this drove me crazy. Debbie Zabel will know that I had some issues with losing material that she sent me. Garden clubs are mysterious. They like to hide. And I'm like, this shouldn't be that hard to find out where these garden clubs are. And they are very mysterious, but I had Therese looking online for me. I had Debbie Zabel helping me. I had various people, sending me information about it. And so we were able to ferret out the local garden clubs. Nancy Smeltzer helped me. So this has been a compilation, and this is the one part that drove me nuts. So I finally decided I can't go down to the Begonia Club. When I was looking that up, I found a rock band. Well, I didn't do my searching right, obviously. So I know there's a Begonia Club someplace. I don't know. Then they have an Iris Club and they have a Daylily Club. And I said, this is bonkers. So I limited it to Douglas County General Garden Clubs. Now, I want to pose this to you as a possible project. I found out that the Lawrence Flower Club in 1938 did 1,300 floral bouquets for service members' graves as a service project. Now, I work at Watkins as I'm not a docent. Kevin's elevating my position. I'm a front door greeter, a little bit of difference, but I work at Watkins and they now are affiliated with the Oak Hill Cemetery and with Pioneer Cemetery. And Will Haynes is the volunteer coordinator. And he and I got together and we dreamed up this thought. And I was telling him about the garden club doing the service recognition. And we said, what about if during Quantrill's raid, or the Lawrence Massacre, as it's supposed to be called, What about if during Civil War days, we decorated the graves of the people, I keep calling them survivors. He said, Susie, everybody who was killed was dead. They're not alive. And I don't know why I want to call them survivors. Shows you how much I know about history. So anyway, I said, Will, what about if we have the garden club and, with the master gardeners decorate those graves? I think that would be a really nice idea. And Nikki is going to teach a class on flower arranging, so we'll know what we are doing when we do it. So I just want to throw that out there. I thought that was a great idea. Plus, I think one of the reasons that we are master gardeners is to network with the community and to reach out and not be this isolated organization. And so what better way to reach out than to do a project like that? And perhaps we could have the junior master gardeners join us and have them, help commemorate the people, obviously, that did not survive, the victims of the massacre. So that's just a thought that I had. And I thought, I learned that from doing the garden clubs. All right, the Lawrence Flower Club is the oldest one. It's been in business since 1925. And they have the footstone out at Sesquicentennial Park. So they are still going. Countryside Garden Club, Debbie Zabel. I believe Cindy, you're in this too. Okay, all right. Jane is in it too. And Jane is one of the people who was willing to give me a clue about who to go to find out about Countryside. Okay, we have the Garden Connection, and I have spoken with them. They're in Baldwin. Wonderful group of people. They are so friendly. And if you have a chance to go to one of their meetings, they are very welcoming. The University Women's Club, this is really cool. I found that Durand Reber, and I guess Lois is a emeritus master gardener. Durand is the former director of the Hidden Valley Girl Scout camp. And she told me all about the University Women's Garden Club. And what she's doing this spring is starting a new organization called the Valley Gardeners. And she is going to plant native plants and pollinators at Hidden Valley. And she needs volunteers to help her with that. And she would love to help, hook up with the master gardeners. So that's something new that hasn't been done before. So I think that would be a great opportunity. And I have her contact information if you would like to get in touch with her. She was really excited about that. She thought we would love to have some help. We're trying to get this thing started. Now, this is very timely. I can't believe we're actually doing something that's timely like this. We're talking about seed catalogs when they're about to have the seed fair. And so I'm thinking this is excellent. And what I decided to do, and boy, this has been going on for months now. I mean, I'm learning a lot. Oh my goodness. Oh, geez. Oh my goodness. What did I do? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be, doing all these things that are weird. Okay. Talk about sustainability. I have been very, very busy. And we now have a vertical file for you to use on seed catalogs. Okay. She's going to pin it on me. She's going to get this fixed.
Yeah, pin it lower.
Okay. Lower.
I'm gonna turn it off for a minute.
We can get really intimate here.
Okay. Turn it off so I can get this stuff on.
Junior high teacher. I mean, come on. I know how to project.
All right. It's not on yet. I'm gonna turn it back on here
Okay.
after we pin it on.
Okay. I promise I won't move anymore.
And we're back live.
Okay, we're back on. Okay. Now, Margaret, once again, is a tremendous influence on me. So I figured instead of every single one of you having to send out for seed catalogs, we now have them here. They're alphabetical by the title of the company. And I found a really nice website, Garden Betty. Has anybody heard about Garden Betty? Garden Betty is the seed guru. And she has, and I have a list here of seed catalog companies, her favorite ones, and then also ones that she also thought were reputable. So I used her as my guide, and she is amazing. She's very, very knowledgeable. I also got in touch with Tom Buller, if you remember him from he was Sharon's predecessor. And he suggested his 3 favorites were Johnny's, High Mowing, and Fedco, because they all have organic seeds. And so he suggested those, and he also said Baker's is really good. However, Baker's is having problems with peppers. So don't order peppers from Baker's. Okay, I learned that too. Now, Baker's also puts out what's called the flagship seed catalog. I have it up here. Nellie was one that told me about that. The whole seed catalog. That is $15. It's really worth it. It's got everything you can imagine and huge illustrations. And that comes from Baker's. Okay. So I have some seed catalogs for you as well. All right, there's always something more to learn. And we also, from the survey, before I forget, oh, here, this is what's so cool. We asked people, what would you like to learn in the survey? What additional activities would you like to learn about? Raised beds, soil microbes, xeriscape, that was big, compost, ornamental grasses, propagation, flowering, and with learning comes forward motion together. We might create a garden for future food insecure households. This was the question where how could master gardeners be more involved in the community? Okay. And I love this idea. Create a garden for food insecure households. Connect with diverse gardeners. And I think that's something that we have as one of our goals. Donate plants to local housing organizations such as Habitat for Humanity, Tenants to Homeowners. Advocate for becoming a bee city. Establish a mental health garden. I had never thought of that before. And I thought that is really a good idea because everybody has so much stress.